Hello, thanks for joining us. So, business partnering, what is it? Who should be involved? And what sort of benefits should we be looking for? To answer those questions, I'm delighted to be joined by Anders Liu-Lindberg, who for the last 10 years or so has been steeped in the world of business partnering. Anders, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ellen. I always appreciate the opportunity to come back to your focus week and just share a few tidbits of knowledge, and hopefully that can help the audience take their next steps on the business partnering journey.
Thanks very much. I'm sure it will. So let's sort of wind back to the beginning. For those who are new to the world of business partnering, how would you define it?
We have actually put it on a formula. I know, that works for finance people, maybe not as much in the procurement world, but we basically say that business partnering is insights times influence equaling to impact,
Mm-hmm.
right? Insights is the information that we share with decision makers that they currently don't know, but can help them make better decisions. The influence is what we use to, communicate, build relationships, to get buy-in and acceptance for the insights that we bring to the table. And if we have both, we have impact, which means better decisions and stronger executions, leading to more value created in the company. So that's kind of putting it in a very simple framework.
And it's great that you've got that kind of formula, because I think sometimes the concept of business partnering can be quite vague for people to be able to grasp. The PPN's audience is a mixture of mostly finance and procurement professionals. And as we've talked about on a few times before, those two elements sometimes don't connect in the way that they should. How do you think that we can overcome that?
Yeah, so obviously I come from the finance perspective, right? So maybe if you had a similar procurement business partnering expert, maybe he or she would come from a different perspective. But what I would always advise finance teams to do is to actually have a finance business partner, either team or individual, who is responsible for partnering with procurement, right? Because procurement is responsible for huge spend in the company. So lots of money is spent there. And of course, procurement is always doing their best to get the best deals, to get savings, and they have KPIs and this and that as well, of course. But having a finance partner to spare with them on achieving these goals will make the relationship a lot stronger. Rather than procurement feeling like they always need to go to the CFO to get approval for something, maybe they will report to the CFO. Sometimes that happens as well. And it's kind of more maybe a negative relationship where they're struggling to really get through with their ideas. Maybe they get no more than they get yes. So have that business partner relationship from finance to procurement, I think will make it a lot easier to strengthen the relationship between these two functions.
And I guess in a way providing that kind of link between the two, someone who can perhaps see it from both sides, rather than being siloed in their own perspective.
Yeah, 100%.
But I've spoken to some organizations fairly recently, actually, where they have said that, yeah, I get that kind of concept, but for us, taking somebody out of their core function is too much. It draws them away from that too much and too often, so that their focus is no longer where it should be. What would you say to organizations where that's the case?
I mean, as a business partner, you're always wearing two hats, right? You're wearing the finance hat or the procurement hat, whatever you will, and then you're wearing whatever business you are supporting hat. And that's not easy. I think, we also talk to lots of organizations where they say, we have a matrix organization. So I report into finance, but I support this business vertical, or the other round of it, so report into the business. And of course, I'm a finance person. This is hard. It's hard for people to actually live and thrive in this matrix. And that's also why, to really be a good business partner, you typically need to be a bit more senior. You can't come straight from university and say, I'm going to be a finance business partner, whatever it might be, and I'm going to be successful. It doesn't work like that. As you said, I spent 10 years when I worked in industry in various business partnering roles, but it actually took me 10 years to become really, really good at it and to really balance the relationship of finance, control and compliance as well, with the advisory hat where I'm out there and I help these business teams be successful. Because to be honest, That's my goal as a business partner. I have no other goals, but of course I need to have the perspective and saying, are they doing something they're not supposed to do? Are they going
Mm.
against common direction? Then of course I need to be ready to raise the flag, and it requires some sort of seniority. But the notion that it cannot be done and cannot work, that's hogwash. So don't believe that.
So do you think it comes down to sort of experience, or is it authority? You know, you say that you've got to be in the business for a certain number of years or time. Do you think what's more important? Do you think the seniority that you have, or the experience that you've learned along the way?
I mean, it's 100% experience. If you have to be a business partner through authority, it doesn't work, right? Because
Mm,
we are striving to create win-win relationships where they actually believe we have a genuine interest in helping them. So if I need authority to be at the table, to be
mm,
their business partner, then look at it from the other side. Okay, would I want to be forced upon a person that has authority to tell me no? No, I want an equal partner here that actually helps me succeed. So it's nice, of course, to have a mandate from, let's say, the CFO to say, you should be business partners with these teams, and the CFO can explain to the other CXOs, how finance, for instance, wants to work, and so on. So that, of course, helps, but it should never be through authority. It should be through experience and ability to help business leaders be successful.
and I like the idea of it being a win-win relationship as well, because it's very, very difficult. We often talk about the benefits of collaboration at PPN, but it's very difficult to get that collaborative spirit in play if there's one side that's sort of seen to be taking more than the other. So I guess that's a balance that needs to be had between the different elements of the business that you're trying to partner with. Um, do you think that it has to be somebody who's got a business partnering title? And do you think that there are benefits to be had by that, or doesn't it really matter?
Look, we get this question a lot, right? And first and foremost, business partnering is a mindset. So everyone in finance or procurement or legal or tax or IT, all these kind of functions that are not necessarily, the direct functions in the company that are dealing with the customers or something else, all those that can kind of partner with these teams, they need a business partnering mindset, right? Because we want to service the company to be successful. Why else do you have a finance team or a
Mm,
legal team or a procurement team for that matter, right? To help, the overall, sales, marketing, all these other functions to be successful, to realize a strategy and everything else. If those are not there, if there's no product, if there's no customers, then we don't have a business, right? So that's really key that we all have this mindset. Then it's also, different kind of capabilities, right? So you can, of course, have the mindset, but you also need the capabilities to generate insight and to
mm.
develop influence as well. That said, in some companies, typically larger companies, I would say, it could be a role as well. But it's not to say you have to have the title to be a business partner. You have to have the mindset. You could have the title and not the mindset, and then you're going to fail anyway, right? So mindset governs everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose that you need to have somebody who understands the business and, like you say, wants to drive the success of the business along. And I guess it doesn't really matter whether you've got that title or not. You need to have that in your focus. Um, so, I mean, we've talked about just now that you've had 10 years and more in the world of business partnering. And I think, first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, but first of all, at Maersk, where you were the head of global finance on the project management side. Um, what do you think has changed in those years when you've been involved in it for quite some time?
I think first of all, right? So the first time I heard about the concept of business partnering
Mm,
was when our then CFO back in the early 2010 he came to present to us at a graduate program and saying, I want finance to move from the trunk of the car and into the co-driver's seat, helping the driver steer the car, right, or steer the
hmm
business, as the analogy, right? The challenge back then was not that that didn't sound exciting or we didn't want to do that, but there was no guidance as to the what and the how. right? So that was just an analogy used, and then you figure it out. What has changed over the years is that companies have become a lot more concrete on what business partnering is and how they want their teams to succeed. And what we've also then seen in the last, 5, maybe even 7 years, is that companies are actually willing to invest in upskilling their teams and creating that clarity, right? So that we give people a fighting chance to succeed. So from being a vague concept that, consultants were probably trying to sell into to finance and other teams, it's now become a concrete concept that we can actually deploy in organizations to create more value. And companies, they realize that, well, we actually need to invest in this because this is the future, right? This is the future of what finance professionals should be doing. Yes, there's also tech and AI and other bits, but definitely this is a key part of the future.
And so I suppose it's around building that awareness, isn't it, over that time, as you say, and also companies understanding the benefits that can be gained from it. And I think sometimes, like we were saying at the beginning of the conversation, when it is just kind of this vague idea for companies who have yet not gone down that route, it's important, I guess, to point them towards the benefits, some of them, I suppose, cultural, and some of them financial in terms of the success of the business to make that happen. I was going to ask you whether it's something that you enjoy, but it's just struck me as we're talking about this that actually you've been in it a long time. Why wouldn't you enjoy it? But perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what it is that you enjoy, that you would encourage other people to be a part of it.
Yeah. So it was a 10-year journey for me, right? To learning to become good at it. And to be honest, and I don't think I'm unique in that sense, at least not in the world of finance, it's not natural in my personality to actually be a business partner, right? So there are probably more introverts than extroverts in finance. There are probably more compliance driven than business driven people in finance, right? So these traits, not to say that you can't be a good business partner having these traits, but there's a lot of development that you need to do, right? So I need to undergo a lot of this development. Did I have fun along the way? Absolutely. When it succeeded, would I wish I had done 1,000 times more different things along the way? Absolutely. But coming to the end of my industry journey, so I had my last industry role back in 2019, where I had a senior FBP role. And there it sort of just clicked. And within a matter of weeks, I could actually deliver value to my stakeholders. And I had, so many days where I always come to work with good energy, but days where I actually left work with even more energy than I came in. And I always get goosebumps when I talk about these things, because that's the feeling it gives me succeeding with business partnering. Maybe it's because the journey was so long and hard, but I want other people to have this feeling as well, where you're working hard to help business leaders succeed. They succeed. They say, hey, Anders, we could not have done this without you. Here's all the concrete stuff that actually happened. Wow, right? That's the feeling we want people to have. So do I enjoy it? Yes, I enjoyed it very much.
Fantastic. That's so good to hear as well, because to get goosebumps from something that you've achieved and been through, it's an experience that everybody would want to have. And I guess you're right. People who are working in finance and to some degree in procurement as well, it's not necessarily in their nature to be outgoing and in the front of things and leading that partnership. But again, at PPN, we often talk about the benefits that can be gained from stepping outside of your comfort zone, and that's one of the things that you can do. So I guess from being a business partner, you can generate a fantastic career for yourself by building the success of your company as well. So that's what's happened up until now in the world of business partnering from your perspective. Where do you think things might lead in the future?
Yeah, so even today, even though we have talked about business partnering for, as let's say, actively at least for 2 decades, we can always debate about when it started and if people are doing it way before then. That's probably for another day. But even though we've talked about it for 2 decades, when even today we ask finance professionals who may even be working in business partner roles, how do you spend your time? they still spend around 2/3 of that time doing data work, analysis work, and reporting work. And that's not to say that we shouldn't work on those things, because of course we should, but it's a big part of their time that leaves little time to actually engage with the stakeholders and brainstorm, problem solve, all this stuff. So we spend way too much time still on the preparation phase that is needed to do the actual business partnering. And obviously, a small thing called generative AI sort of exploded in the end of 2022 and all throughout last year. And this is a game changer, not just for for finance, of course, for many things in the world, but it's a game changer in the sense that if you have your data in order in kind of like old school data warehouse, whatever you use today, right? You can use the generative AI applications to just query for the analysis and the insights that you want, so that you don't need to spend all that time there. Instead, you can take that, go and discuss with business leaders, what does this mean for us, and what should we do about it? Because those are the real two questions that we should be asking as business partners. So I believe that the future of business partnering is a lot more actual business partnering and a lot less data crunching work, where we need to really use artificial intelligence to enable us in doing that.
And to be able to lift our heads up above the parapet to some extent, isn't it? Because you're always focused down here, as you say, on the numbers and the number crunching and the analysis, which you need to do. But yes, you need to get more efficient and be given back some more time. So I can see that happening in the future for sure. But of course, not all businesses are the same, are they? You talk about different industries and the differences there between, say, construction and retail, and smaller business, larger conglomerates. What kind of differences can you see there, or are there differences between the business partnering functions that you need to have in those different areas?
Yeah, so of course we shouldn't downplay the importance of industry experience and understanding the business and all that. But to be honest, business partnering is an approach that you deploy to deliver value, right? So of course, I worked in transport and logistics for many years, and oil and gas for many years. So of course, I developed some business understanding there. But I also, recently, through a large part of last year and some part of this year, I had an interim role in the green energy transition industry, actually in solar power, which from working in that industry, I know nothing about. I know nothing about how the energy markets work and so on, right? So could I be a business partner as an interim person right away? Yes. And why is that? It's because I come in with the mindset that whomever I'm trying to business partner with, I'm there to help them be successful. So I can come in, ask all the questions that I want, showcase that for every question I ask, I build on my knowledge, and the next question I ask is even smarter or wiser, whatever you want. And then we are business partnering right away, right? So of course, it's nice if I could spend 6 months, 12 months, 18 months building on my business understanding. Of course, I would be able to deliver even more value, but I'm not dependent on knowing an industry in order to be a good business partner, because the approach is separate from the industry knowledge. But of course, it does play a role.
I guess that goes back to what you were saying a little bit earlier about needing to have the experience before you can then become a really good business partner. And in some ways, I can almost imagine, just listening to you talk there, that in a certain way, I'm sure it helps to some extent that you don't have an in-depth knowledge of a particular industry, because you're not stuck in the middle of it, knowing probably everybody else around that table maybe has been there for many, many years in that industry, and then has, to some degree, I'm not saying a fixed mindset, but to some degree will have an idea of where the business has been in the past and can't see over that. So I can imagine to some degree coming in from the outside might even help in some respects. We've talked about business partnering, and most people would think about it as being a kind of a people project management sort of idea. And you've spoken just now a little bit about that small thing called generative AI. But do you see technology becoming an even bigger part of business partnering than it has been historically?
Look, technology is a huge enabler of business partnering, right? So if we have bad technology, we spend way too much time doing manual analysis, right? I mean, how many finance professionals and probably procurement people as well can honestly say that they never extract their data into a spreadsheet? Probably no one, right? We all do it. And it's not always because it's technology's fault as such. Sometimes a good spreadsheet can be used for good purposes, but oftentimes it's because we either don't have good enough technology or we don't know how to actually leverage the technology that we have, and then we tell ourselves, well, I need to do this manual analysis, and then all the time is spent, and we don't get time to do the real business partner. So I'm really looking for technology to enable us big time. And the reason why I said generative AI is going to play such a big difference is because it's easy and intuitive to use if I'm a business partner. Just query my ERP system or my planning system or whatever it may be on the needed information I need to have. I don't need to be an AI expert, right? Someone else can build that for me. I just need to ask in plain language. And because, of course, I know a bit about the business and I know about what I'm looking for, I can, ask some good questions that will actually lead to getting the right information. So it plays a huge role, but to this date, we're still yet to really see it happening. But I definitely believe with generative AI, it will happen. It's probably the inflection point for technology and business partnering we've been looking for, and it's coming at us very fast.
Yeah, I mean, we quite often say it at PPN that make something easy and then people will use it. And you can certainly see with Gen AI that will certainly be the case and will make the difference probably in the future, as you say. But for companies who are thinking of going down the route, who are listening to us talk today, what would you say to them success looks like? If they want to go down the route, I think it's always quite useful to have an outcome in mind. What in your mind does success look like?
So when we talk about measuring the success of business partnering, we have three main KPIs. The first one is a successful business. A business that is realizing its strategy, is meeting or beating its targets, if it's a public company, to the market or internally to the owners, whatever it might be. The business has to be successful, right? Because if the business is not successful, there's no way in hell anyone else in the company can be celebrating that we are good, right? Because the business is not succeeding, and we're all there to help the business succeed. So that's KPI number one. Of course, it's possible that the business is just great, and even they don't get much support from finance or procurement or other teams, they're just successful, right? So, of course, we have to ask them, am I actually helping you be more successful? Kind of like a customer satisfaction measure. So you could use like a net promoter score, and then you get a score, and you can, query that once a quarter or twice a year, whatever makes sense. So you can see, am I actually continuously having satisfied customers, and am I actually able to further develop that customer satisfaction into something even more positive, right? Because then what I'm doing is actually helping them. So that's the second KPI. The third KPI, just to finish on that, is it's possible that the business is successful, and it's possible they're happy just getting the numbers on time, or just getting, okay, here's a few vendors you can use, whatever it might be. That's probably not what we want to do. We want to do more. So we have to be able to talk about what's our role in making the business successful. Have you been involved in projects where we created value? Have you facilitated, good workshops or problem-solving, sessions where we could actually help business leaders develop better understanding of issues and make better decisions that then create value? Because, like you also mentioned earlier, it's a collaborative effort. So there's no way I can say, well, okay, we created 10 million pounds in value. I have that 1 million, and you have those two, and it doesn't work like that, right? So I'm not here to claim fame, but I'm here to articulate what was it I did. Was I sitting in the back of the room, taking notes and sending out a summary, or was I standing in front of the screen facilitating the meeting? Just to give two different scenarios. If I'm in the back of the room, I'm not doing business partnering. If I'm in front of the screen, I'm doing business partnering, right? So just to say we have to be able to articulate all these different cases that we've been in, and then you can go down the route of creating a value log where you kind of log all the different things you've been part of and saying, we were there, we were part of making it happening. Would it have happened if we weren't? Maybe, maybe not. But now we were there and we actually did create the value, and we've been part of all these different cases, stacking it up. So different ways of doing that, but you got to have that third layer as well to actually prove that you are successful with business partnering. So those KPIs will always be the ones that we advise companies to use.
And I think all of those make absolute sense as well. And I think also goes back to help people understand that it's not, business partnering isn't this sort of ethereal thing that you can't get a proper hold of, particularly when you're talking to finance professionals. We all like to be able to measure something. And I think it makes sense to be able to have something like that by which it can be measured. And success ultimately is the thing. And that can be a success in drawing people together, as well as, I guess, financial success for an organization as well. So where should someone start along this journey, do you think? If they've sort of got very disparate departments, where should their starting point be?
I think the key thing is to define, what does business partnering mean for your company, right? Because you need to have something concrete that your team members can see themselves in and say, okay, this is what the different works look like. This is how I'm going to be a business partner, because it cannot just be go into the business and create some value. That's very vague, right? So we actually need to have a well-described framework of what business partnering means in our company. Then from there, you can start to assess your people. Do they have the right capabilities? You can do learning. You can do other bits, improve processes and whatnot. But have that concrete definition or framework of what business partnering is in your company, and then you can gather your people around that and say, let's go on this journey together.
Do you think it makes sense to have any kind of timescales in mind?
Yeah, it's a cultural journey. I think you talked about culture before as well, right? So it's not something that happens in a fortnight or anything like that. It's a 2-3 year journey to change that culture, where you are actively working on it along that way, right? So you can't give up after 6 months or 12 months, then it doesn't take root in the organization.
Yeah, I suppose it is really making sure that those roots go deep, that they don't get forgotten again. I mean, we talk about any kind of transformation journey. It's not a point that you get to and then say, right, we're transformed and we can all sort of go about our way as we were before, because it all starts to unravel. But I guess the deeper you put those roots, the better that it is. Well, thanks for sharing all of your thoughts and ideas, Anders. Are there any final bits of advice you'd like to leave our PPN audience with?
Yeah, you spoke about the comfort zone earlier, Ellen, and for many, business partnering is outside the comfort zone. So, I just want to tell everyone out there that, yes, you do need to step outside your comfort zone, but remember, you can also step back in from time to time to take a breather, right? So it doesn't have to be so exhilarating and way too much for you. It's a fun and exciting journey, but there's also time to relax along the way.
Do you know what? That's so important to do, because and allowing ourselves the ability to do that is so important. Well, thanks, Anders. Again, thanks for sharing your thoughts and ideas with us, and thanks everybody for joining this session. Speak to you all again soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks for having me, Ellen. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.